Toradora, with more than 5 million copies sold to this day and a pretty solid critical reception, is regarded as one of the best school romance anime ever made. That is, if you enjoy domestic violence, frustrating drama that drags on longer than it should, and a female lead who's one of the most insufferable brats to ever step into fiction. I'm not kidding, this girl right here is basically what would happen if you turned tsundere into an actual person. But before we start the video, I hope we all know what this word means because that's what this video is all about. Listen, I like Kuma 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 Bear. Yes, that's an actual anime. And no, it's not good, so keep that in mind. It all started last year when I began feeling that ever-returning itch to watch a school romance anime. I think most of you who clicked on this video probably share that same feeling from time to time. So I looked up some romance anime on YouTube, and Toradora was not only constantly mentioned in some videos, but it was also highly praised by most people in the comments. That's when I opened my totally legal anime app and gave the first episode a try. And bro, the moments I saw the students walking, the school bell ringing, and the cicadas making noise, singing, buzzing, whatever the shit they do in English. Sorry, I don't know the right verb to use here. I knew I was in for a treat. Except I wasn't. Meet Ryuji, a 17-year-old high school student who happens to be the male protagonist of this show. He has the misfortune of having a face that makes most people think he's a delinquent, like when he tries to socialize and people just hand him their wallets out of nowhere. But despite his looks, Ryuji is actually pretty kind. And even though Toradora is a slice-of-life anime, I couldn't help but think about Jujutsu Kaisen sometimes, because the guy is basically the victim of a cursed spirit. This is Taiga, the female protagonist of Toradora and one of the most beloved tsundere characters out there. She's someone with a difficult background who lives alone in an apartment paid for by her father. Because of her family issues, poor emotional control, and lack of accountability, she's a little difficult. But if being a jerk were a game, Taiga would basically be playing ranked. In the first episode, we get a glimpse of Ryuji's life at home. He's a pretty organized guy, maybe a bit too much. He lives with his mom, and since she works her ass off to make ends meet for the two of them, all the cleaning and cooking fall on him. And maybe that's how he developed his cleaning obsession. So he goes to school, people hand him their wallets out of nowhere as usual, and two more characters are introduced. His friend Kitamura, who Taiga likes, and Taiga's best friend Minori, who the protagonist likes. So now we have this interesting situation. Taiga likes Ryuji's friend, and Ryuji likes Taiga's friend. And finally, this is where we see the first interaction between the protagonist and Taiga. He accidentally bumps into her in the hallway, and we get to see Taiga's reaction. And now I have a question for you, my dear viewer. If a student bumped into you by mistake at school, what would you do? Option A, apologize and move on with your life. Option B, wait for him to apologize and then move on with your life. Or option C, finish him. Well, I think most of us would choose either option A or B, like any other homo sapiens with the most basic manners. But not Taiga. She knocks the guy out. And that's the character we're supposed to root for, by the way. After a long day of class, Ryuji goes back to the classroom to grab his bag. But when he arrives, everything's a mess and this white Pokemon appears. Turns out she trashed the whole place, but Ryuji ignores all of it because he just wants his bag. And that's when Taiga tries to take it from him because she realizes she accidentally put the love letter she wrote to Kitamura inside Ryuji's bag. He refuses to let it go and she leaves, calling him dumbass just because. After this long day at school, our boy finally goes back home to get some well-deserved rest. And that's when he discovers the letter Taiga accidentally put in his bag, but he doesn't open it because he has what? Here is a phonetic transcription for those of you who struggle with English. Repeat after me. Basic manners. Yeah, that's right. Some time passes and Ryuji wakes up at 2 AM because of some weird noise in his house. It turns out Taiga breaks into his house in the middle of the night, attacks him, and then has the audacity to say it's his fault. Listen, I don't like how much negativity there is on YouTube. A lot of content creators use anger as a tool to get views these days. So when I express a negative opinion, at least I try to make it funny so you guys can laugh instead of getting angry. But damn, this one's hard. As for the letter, it was empty, so there was nothing for Yuji to read in the first place. Taiga calms down and then faints because she hasn't eaten anything solid in a while. So Ryuji, being the good-hearted guy he is, decides to cook something for her. He even tries to help her emotionally by showing her the cringe letters he secretly wrote to the girl he likes. And that's when she finds his note confessing to Minori, her best friend. Yeah bro, you're cooked. He begs her to go home and let it go, since he wouldn't tell his friend that Taiga likes him either. But she says, nope, there is no way I can trust you now. Ryuji says he's willing to do anything she wants, as long as she leaves so he can sleep. My boy just wants some sleep. Get your ass home. Then she asks him if he would obey her like a dog. Listen, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but if I were to mention every single time Taiga hit, insulted, or was just a jerk to Ryuji, this video would easily be at least 30 minutes long. But of course Taiga does get better over time. She slowly learns how to be more grateful, less aggressive, and more accountable. One of the reasons Taiga is like this is her family situation. Even though money was never a problem for her, she couldn't really count on any kind of emotional support from her parents. The story tells us that Taiga used to live with her biological parents until they got divorced and her father remarried. But there was always this hostility between her and her stepmother. That conflict eventually makes Taiga feel like she's unwelcome in the family anymore. That's when she tells her father she's leaving to live on her own. But instead of trying to convince her otherwise or showing any concern, he just lets her go without showing any kind of attachment. So Taiga ends up living by herself, feeling lost, broken, and unable to trust people anymore. And there is even more to this whole situation. So no, Taiga isn't violent and ungrateful for no reason. To a certain extent, she's also a victim. And as a viewer, we follow her journey to become someone more complete, stable, and responsible. Which still didn't make me forget how she behaves like a parasite towards the protagonist for most of the anime. The guy takes care of her, cleans her apartment, does her laundry, and she responds with violence and ingratitude. Yes, she does get better, but damn, it takes a while. Taiga and Ryuji eventually come to an agreement. Each of them will help the other, since they're friends with each other's romantic interests. And to be honest, I found this plot pretty interesting. I remember being curious to see what would happen and how many episodes it would take for the two of them to realize they were actually falling for each other. It's episode 16, and they're still trying to confess to side characters. Where is the romance, my guy? And that's one of the things that frustrated me the most about Toradora. Back when I watched the first few episodes and saw this whole plot being built up, I was excited to see the events unfold, Taiga and Ryuji's journey toward becoming a couple, and, well, romance. Do you know when Taiga and Ryuji actually kiss? Episode 25. Do you know how many episodes Toradora has? 25. That's the kind of romance you're getting here. And do you guys remember Minori? She eventually says she's always liked the protagonist, and unlike Taiga, she always treated him like an actual human being. But when she finally confesses, Ryuji is already in love with Taiga. So yeah, I was kinda angry, but to be honest, I don't think Ryuji deserves Minori. She's too good for him. So this is Toradora in a nutshell. It's not really what many of us expect from a romance. It's basically a school drama where a guy is the victim of a girl who sometimes behaves like a sociopath, and he refuses to have any self-respect and always go right back to her. Oh, and it's also about Taiga overcoming her past trauma and becoming a better person. And then you get a little romance. So that's my take on Toradora as a romance anime. Different people will have different perspectives. I'd love to know what you guys think about this anime, so feel free to share your opinions in the comments below. I read most of them. Thanks everyone so much for giving me some of your time. I always appreciate your support. Romance my ass.